Ah, hey, hello, everybody. It's me, Peppermint.
Yep. And me, Hugh. Sorry about that, y'all. I don't know what I was doing there for a second. I don't know about you, Pep, but this month has been crazy for me, and my brain is like half
Yeah,
here.
same. You know what? I'm surprised you got that much because I have a lot less, and I'm really, but we're here. Nevertheless, two halves make a pair, right? A whole, or whatever they make. And so at least something. So here we are, and excited and happy to be with everybody. Welcome to our podcast, which is Queer 101. This is the podcast where Hugh and I dive into current events and even talk about how they are connected to historical events. And we are super excited because this episode, coming out of Black History Month, coming out of the first 35, 40 days of the year, which feel like
6 months, 8 years of the year.
And coming off of the kickoff, the ending of Black History Month and the kickoff to the economic blackout, economic empowerment, economic boycott that we had just a couple of weeks ago. Those of you that participated, leave a comment if you did. I did. I want to hear how you did on that day, the 28th. We chose the best book. We chose a perfect subject, and we're excited to talk about that. We'll tease that a little bit later. But we wanted to make sure that you know that this is a brand new podcast, a brand new series, a brand new video series, and we want each and every one of you to make sure that you are engaged. Please, 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 if you're seeing a clip of this, make sure you follow, like, subscribe, so that you can see our next one. Every single month, we're going to come out with a new conversation with each other about the current events, things that are happening, and how those things kind of connect to history. Because it really is all connected, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. It all comes together. And I think that's what's exciting about doing this podcast between the two of us, is you've got your pulse on what is happening right now. And hopefully, I at least know a few books. One or two.
I hope you know more than one or two. Well, we definitely know one for today, but so yeah, we this is a brand new podcast. I'm going to be saying this like this for a while. Subscriptions are really, really, really key to us. And if you don't know, we also host a conversation and a book club and a community over on allstore.com, which is the preeminent queer book service, master book provider to all things queer and queer adjacent, queer relevant in the world.
And if you sign up with us, you're getting not only our book every month with them, but also swag that we designed to go along with the book, and access to our community Discord, where right now people are talking about Fearless and Free, and about our upcoming books, and about everything related to queer history and queer books. So where are you?
It is the truth.
Join us.
So we let's tell them about the book that we have, and then we'll go into how it connects to what's going on today.
I'm excited about this one, I gotta say. I think you're right, that coming off of Black History Month and the economic boycott, going into Fearless and Free, Josephine Baker's memoir of her time as a performer, as an activist, as a leader, as a spy, as a resistance member who fought against Jim Crow, charges of immorality, the Nazis, as a woman who put together a tribe of orphans she called her Rainbow Tribe. It's the right time to be reading this book, I think, right now.
100%. And it really does speak to, I guess it just highlights that there's nothing new under the sun, and history oftentimes presents an opportunity to repeat itself.
But it definitely echoes.
Yeah, it echoes. And it gives us an opportunity to be prepared for what's coming on in the future. And so, I think many of us were able to live sort of a life that was separate. A lot of us desire to live a life that is separate from the conversations about politics and social events and things that are happening. But as we, two things I think are true. As queer folks, we are often queer folks who are obviously parts of marginalized communities. Many of us are part of more than one marginalized community. Are oftentimes more politically active because we have the least to lose and the most to gain when it comes to rights and access and things like that.
And I think as Baker shows us, even when we're not politically active, people put that on us. Our lives are just seen as political provocations no matter what we do.
And in addition to that, social media actually ties it all together. You know, you think of social media as just either, relaxation or entertainment, which I guess it is in a form, but it's also a way that people make money, earn commerce. It's a way that it's where people are. And so since it's where people are, it's where politics happens, and discussions about politics happen where people are. And so you'll be thinking that you're just looking for fun cat videos, and suddenly you're looking at a video, talking about how Haitian migrants aren't eating cats. And then suddenly you're down the road into politics. And you know what? If you're not picking up, because studies show we're not picking up, definitely not picking up, Washington Post. We're not picking up the newspaper. We're not actually reading actual magazines. And a lot of people still aren't going to websites that are news websites. And we're definitely not watching cable news.
And who was the last time you watched I know. When was the last time you watched the evening news? That's not where people are getting their information today. And we've got to be sharing this with each other. I mean, I think that's so important about social media is that yes, I'm on it to scroll and have fun and forget about things part of the time. But I'm also there to share the messages I want to share and use it as a platform. And that's why I love doing this. Like you and I getting to talk about the things that matter to us and to connect that to history, to models that can inspire us. I mean, with everything that's going on around us right now, like we need those models, and then we need to share them with each other.
Yeah, and I think that's why. So what I noticed though is that a lot of people who said I don't talk about politics are now talking about politics. Because of those two reasons. If they're queer, they're realizing that their lives are in danger. And if they're just on social media, they're realizing that they can't escape it. That was my point, is that like we're all talking about politics. And so this month, this year, I've seen a lot more people being politically active and posting things and talking about things and able to hold intelligent conversation, more nuanced conversation, informed conversation about subjects that I know I've never talked to these people about before. Have you experienced that?
Oh, I love to hear that. That is so good. Not only am I hearing about things from other places, but like my parents called me to tell me about a protest they were going to. And when was the last time that happened?
Isn't that
People
wild?
are getting active, and that is exciting. I just love to see it. I mean, even amongst all this shit, even as the Supreme Court is upholding Tennessee's ban on drag in public, even as they are fucking erasing trans people from the Stonewall Monument, people are turning out in the streets, and that turning out on social media, starting these conversations with the people in their circle and bringing them in, and that's awesome.
What is your reaction to all these things? I mean, I'm specifically talking between each other. Like what are some of the things that you've noticed just this year? Like, what can we talk about those?
The ones that are really starting to, freak me out are the ways that they are trying to drive trans people specifically, and all queer people, but specifically trans people, out of public life, right? Get rid of passports, get us off websites, all of this destruction. I mean, that to me is the kind of thing you do when you're trying to erase someone entirely. And I think that people might say like, oh, well, these are small steps. These things don't matter all that much. It's just drag. It's just the word transgender on a website, right? It's just Meta's policies about who you can make fun of for a mental illness. But every one of those things, like, it erases people. It's exactly what happened around World War II that led us into, like, the 50s and 60s and that time of real conformity. So for me, that's what's really been hitting me recently, is the erasure. What about you?
Well, I was going to talk about DEI and resistance, but why don't you hit us on the DEI resistance part as well, because all these things are connected. So yes, that does personally, yes, of course, trans erasure is something I want to talk about. But what else is happening in the ether?
I mean, in the ether, I think a lot of things are going on that are a little bit freaky, right? The Washington Post announced last month that they had to now have their opinion section be only about, capitalism? I mean, like, that is a bad sign, right? That is not
it is
good.
So
they are
wild.
firing folks everywhere.
It is wild.
It is.
And it's like mask off, I guess. And it's like, this is what it always has been about those things, but like, it is...
They had to pretend.
I guess they had to pretend, and I mean, I guess maybe they were thinking, we're all about the dollar, but like we might as well talk about how people's flowers are growing and talk about recommendations for favorite recipes as well. And now they're still going to do those things, I would imagine, but. I wonder what the line is between, I wonder where the line is. Will the average person want to just hear about how capitalism is so great, even though they are certainly moving into we are certainly moving into a world and a time and a day and age where corporations have less restrictions, less regulations, can charge 10, 20 times as much for something that we used to pay $1 for if they want to. They can start because of the lack of regulations means less regulations, and then I think even less regulations means eventually almost no regulations. And what does that mean? That means we'll still be buying things. We'll have less options. Those things might be way more expensive. Will probably be harmful to our health, but we'll like them because they taste good or they're interesting or they're entertaining. Because that's what we go to. We go to what feels and tastes good, and we go to what looks good and what's entertaining. But it can be making us sick. It'd be harmful to us. It could be giving us cancer. And we're going to have a lot less options, and things are just going to be so much more expensive. That's what happens with less regulations.
Yeah, and when things break down, we'll have less government support, right? Like, no one wants to admit that the government is the bedrock support for all of us, but it is. When things fall apart, we depend on the roads, which would not be there if we did not have taxes. We depend on the hospitals. We depend on the folks who work at the National Park Service. All of these little things that maybe you don't think of it as being the government, right? But when, folks like Musk come in and they knock everything down and they tear it all apart, it's only after. It's only when you need it that you realize the bridge is not there anymore, right? I feel like we're headed towards that moment. By the time this comes out, we're probably seeing it.
I think you're right, but I feel, to me, if I was talking to someone who, if I was trying to engage on this idea with somebody, I would probably say you just got your driver's license and you learned everything you needed to learn in your driver's class, and you learned everything you needed to learn to have your license, and you live in a small town and you want to make a cross-country drive and you're going through state to state. It's all of the laws, all of the signs, suddenly you get to the next state and the laws, the signs are blue, and the stop signs are green and they're shaped like a diamond and they don't say stop. That is what each state having completely different regulations and lack of a sort of a through line and lack of consistency probably feels like. Driving across country and the traffic laws, the speed limits, the signs, the traffic lights, and what happens are different in every single state. Every road you drive on, when you cross into a new state, suddenly you were going 60 miles an hour, which was legal in the one thing, but now the new law is 10 miles an hour, and then suddenly if you're going 60 into a 10, now you're breaking the law. It's that type of inconsistency. I know that's a hypothesis, but that is an example of how things can become inconsistent and how our taxes pay into it. And I just think that is what could be coming with each state is trying to sort of section itself off so that there's no consistency in a federal government that has national implications.
Yeah, and it's a lot easier to tear this stuff down than it is to rebuild it, And I think we're going to find in that chaos all the things we're missing.
Yeah, I think it starts.
I'm nervous.
I'm nervous, and to go back to what you mentioned about trans erasure. I mean, besides trans erasure, it's not about trans. I think it's less about trans erasure. It's about the erasure of the protections for trans people. But I really do think it's more about trans criminalization. It's about control over people's bodies and forcing them into boxes and moving them or controlling when those people can move, and sort of making those people individual pariahs, misfits. Look at you, you don't fit. Your ID doesn't fit because we changed the regulations on the passports. Oh, now you can't move around freely. Most people don't know this, but your driver's license is not your own property. It's the property of the state that you live in. But your passport is your property. And you are able to use that to move around from state to state, or obviously from country to country. If you don't have access to that with the new passport regulations, or if it doesn't match, then that causes problems, both for the people that are reviewing it and for yourself. And so like that makes it more difficult. And that I think opens up, I guess, a proverbial can of worms, but like really it is like a back door to bodily autonomy, what decisions you can make about your own body, where you can go to get those services, what's legal and what's not. And it if you're not lined up with those things, they can just say, oh, well, if your birth certificate and your driver's license don't match how you present yourself, then something is illegal. So you're illegal.
Yep. And not only that, they can say you're committing fraud, and they can say, well, anyone helping you, anyone who assists you, like what they're doing with anyone who helps a woman get an abortion now,
exactly,
making that illegal, right? It just criminalized any support for the trans community, criminalized any life, really. I mean, that's what we're seeing happen here, and it's frightening. But I think that...
Well, I wanted to say that, like, the trans community in particular, certainly the LGBTQIA plus community, but definitely at large, but the trans community in particular, because of our connection to all these different services and laws that sort of pull from all these different civil rights areas, are I think, probably the best way. It's like sort of like the I don't know, I have no sports analogy, but like bowling, you hit more than one pin, whatever, strike, where you can get all these different areas at the same time that suddenly mean that you as a government entity or somebody who wasn't elected into government who's now able to control people's lives just by targeting the trans community now have access to how people move around, which is immigration, how people control their own bodies, gender affirming care, which leads into, reproductive rights and things like that. All of these different things. If those people can't work or can't live, can't get an apartment because of these types of discrimination, then it's housing. And so, like, all these different things are connected. And so I think the trans community is a prime target for that, which is why Trans Day of Visibility and Trans Week of Visibility coming up at the end of March, bleeding into the beginning of April, March 31st being Trans Day of Visibility, is really, really, really important for people to focus on and highlight. Mm-hmm. Let's make this year about intersectionality and resistance. Let's make this year about understanding different communities that you aren't necessarily a part of, and look for a way that do the work and look for a way that the laws and the regulations and the things that people are saying about those communities that are like, oh, I'm not part of that, those others, figure out a way that if that law passes, how that could, in some world, impact you negatively. And then start to build on that idea. And that's how intersectionality, like, connects for a lot of people. And then, how can we resist those things? How can we help those people resist those things? Yeah. Trans people are going to be high up on that list.
Yeah, it's all about solidarity. Yeah. I mean, that's it. It's this interconnectedness, and I'm really excited that we're putting out this list. Actually,
so we have
T-Ball. Like that is
we have lots of books that we like to talk about, and we try to run the gamut for everybody. But our trans list, I don't know what the official name is, but our Trans Day of Visibility, Trans Week of Visibility list is going to be published very, very soon. I think it comes out like next week. And we're really excited for you all to see some of the trans authors' books of past and present.
Yeah, we're going to celebrate some classics, some groundbreaking new stuff. It's going to be a really wide list because there are so many great trans authors writing and publishing right now. So many great non-binary authors, so many agender authors. There's like a plethora of great books out there, and we are excited to get to share them with you.
Yes, and so when you see that list, please share it and promote it, because we want to make sure that these trans folks, these books, all the books that we cover, including the trans-specific books, are vulnerable to the book bans that have been swirling around and will probably continue to proliferate. But in addition to those books, what else do we have?
We've got some good ones coming up, I gotta say. We've got some good ones. Next month, for those of you who have not heard already, you must be living under a rock, we're going to be talking to Bob the Drag Queen about Harriet Tubman live in concert. This one is wild. Y'all are going to love it. I cannot wait. And after that, in May, we're going to be featuring Vivian Blaxell, who's an incredible Australian trans woman who transitioned in the 70s and has been writing these essays ever since. Worthy of the event. It's her first book. Really great. In June, to celebrate Pride, we're going to do So Many Stars, a collection of oral histories done with queer elders of color by Caro D. Robertis. In July, we've got a great memoir, Rosa Nazari's All the Parts We Exile. And in August, we're doing a hard science book on sexual evolution by Nathan Lentz. So real variety coming up. Super excited to discuss all of these with all of y'all.
Me too. I think it's going to be fantastic. We have a really good year ahead. And this year, it's all about like subversion and resistance, I would have to say. And for those of you that were not so politically active or socially active in a lot of these things in the last year, the moment the invitation for you to get activated has been sent out, please accept. And if you haven't accepted, it's time.
Like, share, and subscribe. The invitation.
That's
activist.
right. So we are super excited to talk about our book, our featured book for this month, which is Fearless and Free. Josephine Baker. It is. I was just so excited to dive into this book. What about you, Hugh?
Oh, yeah. So excited. I think Josephine Baker is such an inspiration. You know, she was a spy. She was an activist. She was an actor. She was a singer. She was a dancer. And as I learned this month, a writer. And that's incredible. I mean, to see all of that and to know that she did this book in French also on top of, I mean, this is the first time the book has been translated into English. And I think that it really offers some inspiration for all of us. I just was so impressed by her life. Also exhausted. How did she do all of that? Well, that'll be a question for our guest in a minute. Ijeoma will hopefully fill us in on some of that.
It's true. So now listen, for those of you who don't know, in addition to this podcast, we also have our book club over on allstore.com, which you can go and join immediately after watching this video. Not only do you get a chance to get a book of the month, but you also get some swag that's designed by us and then or curated by us. And then you also get access to a conversation with either the author in many cases, and in some cases, someone who's closely connected to the book. Last month, don't forget to check out the conversation that we had last month with the author of The Betrayal of Thomas True, AJ West. It was a great conversation, and, yeah, and I'm super excited I'm also excited about that game, the Molly House game. I'll tell you about that as well. Like, did you sign it? Did you get it?
I haven't gotten it yet, but I'm signed up.
Yeah, no, I haven't received it yet, but I'm signed up
set in the world of...
So, yeah, we'll talk about that later. Anyway, each month we do a conversation that's listed in our Discord with someone connected to the book. And this month, I'm so excited for our conversation with Ijeoma Oluo. It is a fantastic conversation. Here's a clip of the conversation. Here's just a sneak peek of the conversation right now. Check it out.
Ijeoma, welcome to Queer History 101.
Hello. It's such a pleasure to be here with y'all.
Hello.
It's so great to be here with you, too. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
We always ask every single one of our guests, who are you really? And what do you do?
So I am Ijeoma Oluo, and I am a Black, queer, neurodivergent writer, mother, and movement worker. And I live in Seattle, Washington right now, and I am an abolitionist, and that is fundamental to the work that I do in the world.
Oh, that's awesome. When you say movement worker, can you tell us a little more?
Yeah, I think people talk about activists, and it's a very particular thing to them. But I think when we talk about movements, there are people who work in movements in various ways, and all work done in a movement is valuable. And I think that if it wants to be a part of your life, and you may say my activism phase might be over or different, I'm a movement worker. All of the work that I try to do in the world, I hope to contribute to liberation. And so, yeah, that's how I call myself.
Oh, I love that. I love the care you take with that language too. I mean, you're obviously such a great writer, but even in just how you describe yourself and how you speak, it's great to hear. Movement worker. I'm gonna take that one.
Well, I mean, it's just so it's just so necessary, and I feel we kind of talked about this on our podcast. How I'm seeing people become more active and activated and aware. And, I think what it meant to be involved in a movement or even an activist, to some people was like you said, a very particular connection for them, like a very intentional, like I'm going to go specifically to the thing because I've decided. But like for so many of us, it really is just speaking up in defense of your own humanity, and seeing, if you see your humanity is connected to other people's humanity, then of course you're going to be more active. And so I love that. Can you tell us how you came to write the intro for the introduction?
Yeah, I mean, I was when the editor and the publisher reached out to me. So this is Phoebe Robinson's imprint. So when she and Emmy Kondo, the editor, reached out to me, and I had worked with Emmy in the past, and I've known Phoebe for a long time, and asked if I wanted to write this, I was absolutely jumped at it so fast. I was so honored, what a once in a lifetime opportunity. I was actually just stunned that they asked me. And it meant so much to me timing wise too, because I have been spending a lot of time in Paris, and the spirit of Josephine Baker is everywhere in Paris. It is just, she's such an icon there. And it's so rare that you can go to a European country and see a Black woman so celebrated and see such a huge impact on culture that she had. And so it was just, I said yes so fast. Like I have an assistant who answers my emails, so that was when I jumped in immediately and was like, absolutely yes, before anyone could ask me about it.
Wow. I love that you bring up, what a cultural icon she is right away, because I think that is the first thing people might know about her, especially those who just don't particularly know a lot about mid-century performers. So can you give us just like a little overview of her life? To you, who is Josephine Baker?
Oh, I mean, she's so much, but I will say the title is beautiful for like how you describe her as fearless and free. She is a Black woman who insisted on living as freely as possible her entire life. And in that, recognizing how important that was, it also meant that she was really dedicated to the freedom of others as well. And so when I look at her life, I look at a Black woman born in the post-Reconstruction South, right? And I think a lot of people forget that about her and her history and the horrors that she witnessed and was subjected to in the United States. She was married as a young teen. We're talking like disturbingly early young teen. And wanted to perform and ended up, having to break away from her family, break away from the U.S. in order to build that. And she built this incredibly groundbreaking show with a unique dance performance style. She was out there as a Black woman performing almost in the nude with a really uninhibited dance style that no one had seen before, in her own voice style that didn't conform to classical structures, and insisting that she was a star and she could make it work. And with that, she built this beautiful career and this life. She was also an entrepreneur. Like a lot of people don't know that like our idea of bronzing really came from her and came from the French people wanting to be more brown like her. And she actually like trademarked and sold like bronzing makeup so that people could become more like her. Like the early, they want to be as I want to be.
Surprise.
I love it.
And but then also was incredibly, never forgot where she came from, never forgot the horrors of segregation, the horrors of systemic oppression, recognized that it was wrong, didn't forsake Black Americans, and in fact was really dedicated to civil rights her entire life. Right?
Okay,
right?
OJ.
And also was very, incredibly involved in the war, was a spy, and I think it was that audacity that she had her whole life that made her an absolutely perfect spy. And also had a wild life. She had like a menagerie of children, which we don't talk about in the book as much, but she...
And a menagerie of animals. I feel like every other page somebody was giving her a jaguar.
I know. She was smuggling animals in her fur coats and taking them across the border. I mean, just an amazingly, like, I will do what I want And I will do it. There's no reason. It felt like there was no reason for her to exist if she wasn't going to be able to do what she wanted in her own mind. She was here to change the world. She was here to live freely. And it was so beautiful to hear it in her own words, because I feel like Black people, especially Black women, it's often other people telling our stories and talking about what we were able to do in the world.
Yeah.
And to have this beautiful treasure trove of her own thoughts that you could feel like you were really in the room with her. I just felt so honored, especially reading the early copies and being like, I'm seeing this like before almost anyone, in the English speaking world has seen this. Like, what? It just was an amazing experience.
Oh, that was so good. Hugh, wasn't that great?
Brilliant. Just so good. She's so smart. That was, everybody, if you love that little clip, subscribe, hop over to Alstora, join the conversation on our Kiki Discord. Get in with us, because we have brilliant folks like Ijeoma every single month. Right, Pep?
It's true. So go on over, check out the entire conversation. It's full of all the gems. It's about 30 minutes long. And, let us know what you think. And then make sure that you share this video with friends. Thank you all so much for tuning in to Queer 101. Y'all are amazing, and we can't wait to see what books you recommend for further transgender reading in support of Trans Day Visibility and our Trans Visibility Authors Book Club list.
Drop your comments in the Discord.
Yeah, drop them in the Discord as well over on Kiki. And we will see you on the next video. Bye.
See you next month.